Good evening, fellow Plexers. This is going to be a primer video basically for someone named Gábor who's having trouble with a Synology, not a Synology, but a Celeron-based Plex server, which happens to be the same iGPU as my Synology DS1520 NAS and slightly more powerful in the hardware transcoding area than my DS1019 Plus Synology NAS, which I'm going to be using in this demonstration with some public domain video. So what he's experiencing is problems skipping the intro to a TV series and some screen tearing and things like that. And what I'm trying to get him to do is to use the HTPC client app for whatever operating system is on his desktop computer or laptop to use as the test bed Plex client to see if there's any issues on the server. Streaming devices are expensive in his country, and he's using an LG TV. They seem to work with users on my server perfectly fine. I've had problems with older Samsung TVs, and some of my users have had to update to a streaming stick instead of using the built-in interface on Samsung TVs. So this is what I want to do. I want to show Gábor what he needs to provide me, and this can serve as a general video for someone to test their server. There's no better app than the Plex HTPC client app. And you can get that directly from Plex. Let me see what I did with my Chrome window. So we don't want media servers. You'll want app and devices. And it detected that I'm running a Linux desktop computer. So my options are generally the FlatHub store for Plex Desktop, which is on what I'm using here instead of the web app, or the Snap store. And if we'll go to Windows, you'll see there's the Plex app for Windows 2. Now, I don't know why I'm not seeing the HTPC client app. I'm just seeing the Plex Player app. I wonder if Plex has pulled the HTPC client app for some reason. Oh, no, they've just got it separated from the last time I was here. There's, they used to be under the one heading. So the same thing for the HTPC client app. There's a Linux, Windows, and Mac version. Don't get it from the Microsoft Store if you're on Windows. Download it separately and install it. So let's get me signed in here. And the first thing you need to know about the HTPC client app is it's not a program that uses the mouse. Once you're into it, it uses all the old Kodi keyboard commands. So right now I'm using my arrow keys and my enter keys. So I'll do this off screen. I'll pin in off screen too. Okay, now it's going to ask me to pick my preferred server. I'm going to use this test server that has all public domain media on it. So now I have a choice of showing what I want on my screen. I can unpin a library right here. I'm just going to take all of them. And now, let's bring this full screen. Here's different libraries. Here's my music library. And this is all public domain media, so I won't get a YouTube strike if I happen to show a little bit of it. So let's go to Royal Wedding. Now I prepped this to have some different versions. In Gábor, it's better if you have some higher quality versions for this test. So I could play the 2.2 megabit per second version or the 14 megabit per second version. But what I want you to do in your test is I want to see you play it normally, and then I want to see you transcode it. So I'm going to pick the higher quality version. And let me just pause it and move it off screen so we can see. So you'll see that this is transcoded already. So with the HTPC client app, it's all keyboard driven. Drop down with the arrow, slide over, and I'll play original quality. And what we'll see over here is we'll see the original bit rate, 29 megabits per second, and it doesn't matter if you show your local IP address, it's inconsequential. But we'll see that the video streaming at 1080p, H.264, which is its original resolution and container, it's a direct play, and the audio is English AC3 in a mono track, and that's a direct play too. So things I'll be looking for from your screenshots, I want to make sure we have this green icon. If we have a yellow exclamation point, it's an indirect connection, and that would be your client device to your server, not of the media stream. And then some other things we'd be looking at over in the settings. Of course, we'd want to see the green lock on your server. That's important. And the next test we'll check for hardware acceleration. So if I go back to the HTPC client app and drop down, and let me make this full screen so it's easier to see. I'm just sliding over to where it says HD, selecting it, and this is where I can choose the level I want to transcode down. So Gábor, you may not have all the same options. Show me a 4 megabit per second or a 2 megabit per second 720p transcode. And of course on your end, let it play for a while. Make sure it's not going to buffer. So then give me the original screenshot and then another screenshot showing this. I want to be able to see the HW, and that tells me that you've got hardware acceleration enabled properly for your Celeron processor. And you'll see that this container was a 1080p. Now it's being transcoded to a 720p. It's still encoded from 264 to 264, but we show the hardware transcode. And then audio is always a software transcode. It's not as resource intensive as a video transcode. And this is going from AC3 mono to Opus as a transcode. So let's do that again with another piece of media. Let me take this out of transcode. Actually, let's show this with a lower quality version. You'll see it's streaming at 4 megabits per second in its original quality. It's another direct play stream. And I'm sorry, I can't mute the volume on the movie without muting my own volume. So now I have more limited choices, but at least this one still gives me a 2 megabit per second 720p option to transcode down to. So we changed from 4 megabits per second original quality. We cut that in half to 2 megabits per second. And now this is a 480p end result, and it's a very similar audio. So let's do one more different movie. Let's see, let's do The Hitchhiker. Let's make sure I have two versions. I do. This one's 19.1 megabits per second. All right, you'll see that last time I played this on this test system, I was transcoding it. So this will be the second screenshot. 1080p H.264 down to 480p H.264, and a FLAC stereo soundtrack is being turned into an Opus transcoded soundtrack. So we'll go up to original version. And we'll now see that it's a 39 megabit per second stream to start off with, and everything's direct play. So this is really why I need these screenshots. We need to make sure your server is functioning properly and that there's no issues there before we get into any client device, whether it's a proprietary TV app or other device. This is where the money is. I'm betting there's no issues here, but if there's a yellow exclamation and you're indirect, we've got to fix that. And if you're not seeing the hardware notation here like I showed, you'll want to go, well, we're already into the settings, so you'll want to go to transcoder and right here, use hardware acceleration when available. And maybe 6 months ago, an upgrade to Plex server gave us this. Usually it's set to auto, but you can actually see your iGPU. And I thought this was the UHD Graphics 500. Maybe it's the HD Graphics 500. I know your processor is the UHD Graphics 600, just like my DS1520 NAS. They're both 9th gen Intel Celerons. Our models are slightly different, but the same 9th gen chipset. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can show you just on this. But this is the start. If your recreation of all this is exactly the same as mine, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your server. So then you would move on to giving me the same 2 screenshots with your TV app playing. This is the baseline with the HTPC client app, and then you move on to your TV client app. So I hope this is helpful to you. And let me know if you need any more help prepping this part of it.